Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hi everyone. My name is Siti Adlina Binti Fouzee from the section 732. Here I am to talk about my speech about the first sustainable development goal, that is no poverty. Do you know that more than 700 million people, or 10% of the world population, still live in extreme poverty today, still struggling to fulfill the most basic needs like health, education, and access to water and sanitation. Globally, the number of people living in extreme poverty declined from 36% in 1990 to 10% in 2015, but it changed because of the COVID-19 crisis, reversing decades of progress in the fight against poverty. Since many of us still live in terrible situation or poor economic condition, it makes sense for us to find the ways to improve our economy better in our future. Each one of us must be alert to take responsibilities in order to stabilizing the economy's country by reducing the poverty rate in our country. Hence, it is vital for us to be concerned about our unstable economy. I am interested in this topic because I have concern about our economy that is deteriorating day by day, which is make me wondering that if people around me aware or not regards to this issue, which is related in their life. Also, I already do some research related to this issue to make sure I am capable enough to elaborate this topic. Specifically, I want to elaborate about no poverty to my audience, that the contribution that has been made by Department of Economy and Social Affairs. Now, let's start our first point, that is Sustainable Development Goal number 1, no poverty. No poverty is the first Sustainable Development Goal, SDG, which aims for envisioned shared prosperity, a basic standard of living and social protection benefits for people everywhere, including the poorest and most vulnerable. The goal is to seek to ensure equal rights and access to economic and natural resources. The meaning no poverty is commonly understood as everybody has enough money for their basic needs. Majority of people living on less than $1.19 live in Southern Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, and they account for about 17% of the global total of extremely poor people. But are you wondering what is the importance of no poverty? First one is, no poverty is important because the rise in poverty is not only unfair and a threat to the integrity of millions of people, but it also heightens inequality, which in turn weakens social cohesion and severely hampers economic growth. The second one is, the main cause of poverty such as employment and social exclusion drive inequality and heighten malnutrition, lack of access to education, discrimination and exclusion. Altogether, this exacerbates crises, increase political and social tension, and leads to all kinds of conflicts. Currently, over 700 million people of the world's population living in extreme poverty, so with the existence of the first SDG, it would help the people out there. There is issue under this first Sustainable Development Goal, no poverty, which is the World Social Summit identified poverty eradication as an ethical, social, political, and economic imperative of mankind and call of governments to address the root causes of poverty. It is provide for basic needs for all and ensure that the poor have access to productive resources, including credit, education, and training. Recognizing insufficient progress in the poverty reduction, the 24th special session of the General Assembly devoted to the review of the Copenhagen commitments decided to set up targets to reduce the proportion of people living in extreme poverty by one-half by 2015. This target has been endorsed by the Millennium Summit as Millennium Development Goal 1. So, here are some of the targets of no poverty that has been set in Goal 1 of SDG. The first one is eradicate extreme poverty. By 2013, eradicate extreme poverty for all people everywhere, currently measured as people living on less than $1.25 a day. The second one is reduce poverty by at least 50%. By 2030, also, reduce at least by half the proportion of men, women, and children of all ages living in poverty in all its dimensions, according to national definitions. Now that we know the meaning, important issue, and targets of no poverty, let's move on to the second point, that is movement by development of economic and social affairs. The number of non-governmental organizations (NGOs) has been increased for no-poverty issues since the past decade. One of the most prominent NGOs is Department of Economics and Social Affairs, known as DESA, which was founded by Liu Zhenmin in 1948, the ex of the Secretaries for the SDGs. This DESA related to the first SDG by first one, DESA organized and supports consultation with a range of stakeholders, including the private sector and civil society. The second one is DESA's main priorities are promoting progress toward strengthening accountability in achieving the SDGs. The third one is DESA generates, analyzes, and compiles a wide range of official economic, social, and environmental data, also information on which member states draw to review common problems and to take stock of policy options. My opinion from this topic is, I hope with the assist of DESA, they will help a lot our country in order to resolve the problem of poverty. And I hope they will successfully make our country with no poverty. So we finally come to the end. To recap, I already talked about no poverty and the contribution that has been made by Department of Economic and Social Affairs. During my speech, I have talked about the first SDG, that is no poverty, and the importance of no poverty, the issue that related to no poverty, also the targets of no poverty. Also, I have talked about movement by Departments of Economics and Social Affairs, DESA, the background of DESA, and how DESA related to no poverty. I hope after this topic, all of us can pay attention more about our economy and try to make some improvement in order to create a developed country. I think that is all from me. Thank you.